Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 5.
Officials have released the name of the pilot who died in an aircraft crash at the Hawley Airport on Thursday. First responders were called to the Hawley Airport just before 12:30 Thursday afternoon. Authorities found 69-year-old Bradley Gibb of Vergas, Minnesota, deceased when they arrived on scene. According to records from the FAA, Gibb's aircraft was a 2018 AR-1 model rotorcraft. The website lists Gibb's aircraft as experimental, and its category is classified as amateur built. Clay County Sheriff Mark Empting said a bystander who was driving by the crash pulled over and pulled the pilot out of the burning aircraft. Unfortunately, the pilot was already deceased. The bystander suffered minor burns on their hand. They were treated and released by medical staff on the scene. We talked with a family member of Gibb at the crash scene Thursday night, and they told us that Gibb flew his rotorcraft as a hobby. The crash remains under investigation at this time. A 22-year-old Fargo man is facing one count of gross sexual imposition after allegedly inappropriately touching a 4-year-old girl. Court documents state 22-year-old Austin Ernst touched the victim's genitals and peed a white substance onto the girl. During an interview, the victim told investigators that it happened when her mom was not home and that both her and Ernst had their clothes off. The victim also told police that this sort of incident happened, quote, all the time. Court documents say Ernst refused a polygraph test. He is due back in court on August 14th. We're learning more tonight about a police chase out of Horace that ended with a man jumping in the Cheyenne River. It happened Thursday afternoon when authorities say they tried arresting Jason Marinucci, who had several warrants out for his arrest. That's when a short chase started because Marinucci said in court documents he was scared because he knew police were looking for him. Court records say as Marinucci was driving away, he hit a U.S. Marshal's car. Officers eventually arrested him after finding him in the Cheyenne River. Court documents claim officers found a scale with white residue believed to be meth, along with a baggie of marijuana. We are quiet, and that's good, but later, maybe a few rumblings. Let's find out from Hutch, who needs to be on alert later this evening. He's here with No Wait weather. Hutch?
Yes, we do have a few fair weather cumulus clouds here as we close out our work week on this beautiful Friday afternoon. North winds keeping temperatures very comfortable outdoors. A rude awakening north of Jamestown. Tim sending in this photo of greater than dollar coin sized hail to start their morning in the 1 o'clock hour. We do have a few thunderstorms, but they are way out to the west. So if you're in Lakes Country tonight, check this out. Temperatures will fall from the low 80s through the 70s this evening. By 10 o'clock, it looks very quiet with the winds and no storm chances in Lakes Country into your Saturday morning. Fargo, I think we stay quiet until the morning hours as well, with temperatures dipping into the 60s. Likewise, Grand Forks, no chance of storms this evening the way things are looking right now. It's overnight when the storm chances increase. Andrea will have the latest on that as those storms in Montana will be pushing in our general direction. I'll show you right where we think they're going.
All right, thanks, Hutch. It's time to take a look at this week's Valley's Most Wanted. Police say 32-year-old Miranda Murray is wanted for unauthorized use of personal ID. Her picture is up on your screen right now. You can call your local law enforcement if you have any information on Murray. The Bemidji Police Department is warning the public about a high-risk sex offender who will be released from prison into the community. Michael Warren Smith will be released into Bemidji on July 15th. Smith has a history of sexual contact and conduct with children. He is listed as a level 3 offender. Smith is required under Minnesota state law to register with law enforcement. High-risk offenders are the most likely to reoffend. A 38-year-old man pleaded guilty today to operating an international fentanyl trafficking organization from prison. 38-year-old Colombian fentanyl trafficker Daniel Cerrone pleaded guilty to being the leader and organizer of a continuing criminal enterprise while incarcerated in Quebec, Canada. Authorities say Cerrone moved fentanyl and other similar substances from Canada and China into the U.S. and that those drugs resulted in serious bodily injury and deaths in North Dakota. Cerrone faces a statutory maximum sentence of life in prison. 5 people are in jail after reports of shots fired led to a canine search near Ten Lakes Township in Beltrami County, Minnesota. Officials say it happened on July 1st around 1 a.m. There were reports of gunshots outside a home in the 800 block of Porcupine Road Southeast. Officers conducted a traffic stop on a vehicle, and that's when several people left it and ran into the woods. Authorities used a canine to track them down, and 5 people were eventually arrested. President Trump says he doesn't like doing it, but promises people living here illegally will be arrested in immigration raids starting Sunday. The president spoke as he headed to key battleground states today. This as Democrats who toured border facilities held a hearing and blasted the Trump administration for their treatment of detained migrant families. NBC's Jennifer Johnson has the latest from Washington.
Immigration advocates protesting
Down with deportation
ahead of mass deportation raids Sunday in 10 major cities. President Trump says the thousands of families targeted have already been given deportation orders.
It's not something I like doing, but people have come into our country illegally. We're focused on criminals.
But Democrats say the raids are really a political ploy to appease the president's base.
This is an attempt to intimidate immigrant and Latino communities across the country. And what will happen is another version of family separation.
The mayors of New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles say their local police will not aid ICE agents, as others inform immigrants of their rights.
If an ICE agent comes to your home, you do not have to open the door. Ask to see a search warrant.
This as a House committee holds a hearing on conditions at border detention facilities. Democrats testified on seeing unsanitary conditions while touring 3 Texas centers in early July.
We do have a crisis at our border. It is one of morality.
and they were told to drink out of a toilet bowl. I believed them.
But President Trump accused Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of fabricating what she saw.
That's a phony story. She made it up.
Vice President Mike Pence and a group of Republican senators visited a Texas border migrant detention center to counter critics' claims.
Officials say families arrested in these ICE raids are expected to go to detention centers in Texas and Pennsylvania or hotel rooms and then be deported as quickly as possible. After days of political pressure, U.S. Labor Secretary Alex Acosta is stepping down. Acosta has been under fire for the way he handled a sex crime case against wealthy businessman Jeffrey Epstein more than a decade ago when he was U.S. Attorney for Southern Florida. Acosta made the announcement to reporters this morning while standing next to President Trump outside the White House.
It would be selfish for me to stay in this position and continue talking about a case that's 12 years old rather than about the amazing economy we have right now. And so I submitted my resignation to the president effective 7 days from today.
The Deputy Labor Secretary will lead the department on an acting basis. Authorities in Fargo say a vehicle crashed into an electrical box at the corner of 45th Street South and 32nd Avenue around 2 this afternoon, and that caused traffic signals there to turn off in all directions. Fargo police remind you when this happens, drivers should treat the intersection as a four-way stop. Crews were working to restore power to that intersection. North Dakota Senator Kevin Cramer introduced legislation to rename the Sully's Hill Game Preserve to White Horse Hill, its traditional Dakota name. The hill is just south of Devil's Lake. Senators Cramer and John Hoeven, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, made the announcement today. According to the release, the preserve was named after General Alfred Sully, who gained notoriety for committing several massacres of Native Americans, including the Dakota Territory. Representative Kelly Armstrong introduced an identical bill in the U.S. House. Moorhead Police want to introduce you to the newest member of their team. This is K9 Cash and his handler, Officer Zach Johnson. Cash is a Belgian Malinois Shepherd Cross from Slovakia and is 15 months old. Officer Johnson and Cash will start their training in September and hope to be on the streets of Moorhead as a team in December. Tropical Storm Barry